Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the pre-match press conference of match number 41 of Team USA. We have with us today head coach Jill Hallis and player number 16, Rose Lavelle. As you know, we have interpretation services available for this press conference through the application that you should have downloaded in your mobile phones. The languages available today are English, French, and Spanish. If you have a question, please raise your hand first. We'll get the microphone to you. Identify the language first you'll be using, then yourselves and the name of the organization you work for. For the photographers present in the room, please be advised they'll be allowed to stay for the first 5 minutes of the press conference, and then you'll be kindly requested to leave the room. We will now give it a start to the press conference. Who would like to go with the first question? Here in the front, please.
English, Kevin Baxter, LA Times. Thanks for coming, Jill and Rose. Appreciate your time. Jill, a two-parter for you. First of all, how is Alex? And then second part, I know you've been rotating the squad, famously played all 20 players. Now with the heat wave coming, does that look even smarter?
Alex is fine. She's fine. And, yeah, I mean, I think part of it is when you approach the tournament, you know, you have to look if you can get 6 points in your first game, kind of beyond that. And so I think, you know, trying to be measured in that is important. Sometimes you don't have that luxury because, you know, like you pick up an injury or something and you're forced to make changes. But I think it was part of the plan was to make sure we, you know, had players. It's not just about resting legs. It's also activating other players and have them be ready for these moments. So, yeah, I think, I mean, I haven't paid attention to the weather report, but you know, I think for us, everything has been about making sure our recovery was happening the night of the Sweden game. You know, after the huddle, I just said to them, the MVP right now is going to be your recovery and your hydration and your attention to detail in terms of making sure they do that. And I think our players are fantastic at that in terms of knowing that, you know, the next game starts as soon as that game's over.
There's a question here on the left. Here, the lady, the second row.
In English, Nancy Armour, USA Today. Jill, kind of following up on that, you have really not played the starting rotation that I think everybody thought was going to be your starting rotation, and yet you guys have 18 goals and 3 shutouts. What does that say about the makeup of your team, and how important is that going to be going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have talked a lot in terms of, you know, the past year dealing with injuries and having to have a lot of players you know, play not even sometimes at different positions, but with different partners. I think the critical element for us is that the players have a clear understanding of when they play, you know, what the responsibilities are of that position. Obviously, based on the player, sometimes it's different what that looks like. But I think the ability for us to have not just different players, but different profiles of players in certain games. I think, you know, it's obviously a strength, and it's something that we can lean on and rely on. You know, in terms of the past probably 7 or 8 games, the majority of the players that have played the majority of minutes here are the players that we've leaned on for the last, you know, 10 or so games. So I feel good about just where we are in terms of the collective understanding of our team.
Question on the left.
English, Grant Wall, Sports Illustrated. For Jill, like Kevin, I'll ask Julie Ertz, is she okay? Do you have any other injury issues? And then you knew this coming into this tournament, but you guys have like 3 full rest days between games here. Spain has 6. What are your thoughts on that? Germany had the first round of 16 game, and now they have like the last quarterfinal game. It's kind of odd.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, you know, I don't build a tournament, so I don't really, you know, to be fair, I haven't paid a lot of attention to the ins and outs of how it's structured. Yeah, it seems at times it's, you know, big discrepancies. But it's kind of like I said, I think the first day I was asked the same sort of similar thing in terms of our format. When you enter a tournament as one of the last teams to play, probably the last team to play, then, you know, there's going to be certain differences in the windows. At this point, it is what it is. And, you know, I think the players, you know, we know that. I think we're very used to a 3-day rhythm. It's what we've done in certain tournaments, specifically for this purpose of having a consistent rhythm in what we do. And then we can't control, obviously, what our opponent has. So everything is about us. JJ's fine. But yeah, I think, right now it's, I think, managing the group stage the way we did, I think we're in a good position in terms of our physical capacity.
There's a question here in the middle. Gentleman in black.
English, Jeff Kassouf, equalizersoccer.com. Jill, a lot of teams talk about the belief in getting to play the U.S. and understanding that they can hang with the U.S. Is that something that you think about at all? Is it a necessary evil in scheduling games? It came up again with this game that Spain kind of spoke to playing that first time against you guys and feeling like they can hang with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, you want to benefit yourselves, and so I don't take an approach of what benefit it gives our opponent. It's always the benefit for us. I think it was critical that we played Spain. We didn't have a history with them. I think to know a team, to get out on the field with them. I think both teams are probably at very different stages in where that game was. I think there's an understanding of that. But I think, as a coach, I think the approach for me personally has always been, it's 80-20. 80% of what we do has to be on ourselves. And so when you schedule that game, I mean, I actually pushed hard to get that game because I think it was important for us. So, again, you have to take the approach that if it's a method where you're growing and you're learning and you're getting better, you can't worry about what your opponent takes away from a game. It has to be, about ourselves. And I know we're in a different place, and I think we're focused, and obviously Spain's a great opponent, so we have to make sure we're sharp.
Before we proceed, I'll now ask the photographers to leave the room, please. Thank you. There was a question here in the front.
In English, Steve Goff of the Washington Post. Jill, what were some of the things that you learned from the knockout stages of 2015, and how maybe you apply them this time around? Obviously, it's a different team, different situation, but are there things that you took away as a coach from that experience and the possibility of, overtime, PKs, things like that?
Oh, from the knockouts in 2015? Yeah, I mean, I think, the preparation, I mean, I think the reflecting on that tournament has helped us prepare even before the knockout rounds of this tournament in terms of, knowing that the potential for, suspensions or injuries or a penalty kick situation. I think, there was a lot of big takeaways. I mean, I think the preparation and the approach that we've taken with the group stage games, there's a consistency there. You don't want to suddenly change because it's a knockout round. You want to have that consistency so the players see that and feel that. But yeah, I mean, I think coming out of 2015, it was, you don't really realize how stringent the yellow card rule is until you live it. It's pretty stiff to go through a lot of those games, just sitting on one yellow and potential for a second. So, yeah, I think just the planning and preparation coming into the tournament is really where that preparation for a knockout round has taken place and taken root.
Question here in the front again.
English, Kelly Whiteside, New York Times. Jill, can you reflect on Rose's first half against Sweden and just what she brings to the team on and off?
Rose, yeah. I'm going to talk about you right now. Not with you. I'm going to talk about you. Yeah, I mean, Rose is, I've had the privilege of knowing Rose for a long time now and getting to know her, and she's a joy. The way she approaches the game, how she plays on the field, who she is off the field. I think Rose is all of her combined is she's a great joy to be a part of this program. I think performance-wise, you guys can see as well as I can do what she's capable of doing. In terms of the final pass, in terms of being dangerous with the shot, the pass. The separation she can create. She's actually one of the best players in the air. I mean, she's got a lot of different tools in her tool bag, and her head is growing massively right now. I can tell. I'm just kidding. You are, Rose. Your timing is really good. We got some beasties in the air, but you get up there. But anyways, no. In all seriousness, she's just just a very creative player. Who works hard, has a great work ethic on the field, and is just a player that's consistently wanting to get better, and you can't ask for more of that in terms of a coach.
Question in the middle, lady. Yeah, let's go here then instead. Here in the middle.
Questions in English, Seth for TellMeGoal.com. Spain is kind of seen as this program on the rise, with their success on the youth level. Now they're in their first World Cup knockout game. Even, Real Madrid just announcing they're going to have a women's team. Is this the kind of program that's going to be like the main threat to you guys over the next 10 years? These countries that are already really established as footballing countries, but have finally started to, pay attention more and more to the women's side of things, like Italy as well?
Yeah, I mean, and I think this is done with the utmost respect to Spain. I think there are a lot of programs, a lot of teams now that have had, the backing of federations, the growth of the game domestically. I think to have a professional league is critical, and then be in a culture that just embraces football, soccer. So I think that, you see this with Holland, you see this with Italy. It's a matter of time. I mean, I had to leave my home country to go and experience the game. Now it's delightful that these countries are now, actively supporting women's football. And so I think, to me, it's a natural part of the progression. When you have an established culture, you now have the right of women to play, but that wasn't there 20 years ago, and so now you have that. It's to me, it's a natural progression in terms of the development in these countries, because they eat, sleep, and breathe soccer, and so it's very much a positive thing for our game. There's you're seeing players that have watched soccer since they were 3 and 4 years old, and you see the sophistication tactically, you see the technical capacity, and then it's just again it's growing the game domestically for them. So I think Spain is a team that's definitely been a part of the growth, I think, over Europe in a lot of these other countries. And as a fan of the game and someone who grew up in a time where it wasn't that way in Europe, I think it's great to see.
Question here in the second row.
Hola, en español para Rose.
Hi,
Hablas un
question
segundo,
in
por favor.
Spanish. Question in Spanish for Rose.
Para Rose, por fin.
Hi, this is a
Gran
question in
Romero para el
Spanish
mundo.
for Rose.
¿Cuál es la mayor
So,
debilidad del
This
equipo de
is
Estados Unidos
Aran for
y
El
la
Mundo
parte del juego donde
newspaper.
más daño
What's the best
os puede
skill of
hacer
the
España?
US team, and
Gracias.
what's the part of your game that Spain could most attack or could most be dangerous for you regarding?
I think, honestly, the strength of this team is that we have a lot of strengths. I think we're really deep, and we don't rely on one person to get the job done. And I think that gives us a lot of confidence moving forward, and just in general, knowing that anybody at any time on our team can step up and have a big play and help us win the game. And I think in terms of what Spain can expose, I don't really want to share my secrets, but I think we played them in January and they were great. They pressed us, and they had a lot of special players and some good distributors. They were a great passing team. So I think we're going to play our game, they're going to play their game, and it's going to be a fun game.
There's a question here on the right.
English, Michael Lewis, Newsday. Jill, we're in the knockout round now. That means potential of shootouts. I was just wondering your theory of preparing the team for a shootout. Do you have them just take one kick at a time in practice? Maybe you do a few. Also, do you have a list of players that you are thinking of using if you get that far?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll be real succinct. We're prepared. Yeah, I think that's we prepare. It's like every element of the game. Whether it's set pieces, whether it's your defending transition, you prepare for every moment. I think that's what gives us confidence to be prepared for certain situations, and that's what we've done, for sure.
There's another question here on the left. Microphone on the second row.
In English, Nancy Armour, USA Today. Rose, Jill had mentioned about the profile of the players and you all being able to play with different people. Can you describe how difficult that could be as a player, and how much of a strength it is that you guys can mix and match as well as you do.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's super important to be able to build chemistry with players on the field, and I think we've had the luxury of playing so many different players because we are deep and we have a lot of really talented players. So I think being able to kind of play with different combinations has really helped, especially in a tournament like this when players get suspended, there's injuries and all that. So I think we're prepared in those moments, and yeah.
Question at the back, or half back. No, the gentleman in blue. Yes, please.
The
Thank
center
you.
back in the back.
En français, s'il vous plaît. Clément Repin de Canal+, pour Rose.
Clément
une question.
Lebrun, Canal+. It's a question for Rose.
Est-ce que vous pourriez nous parler de la façon dont vous
Would you be
appréhendez
able
votre
to speak
poste
to us
et
about
quelle liberté
what
vous avez
you
besoin
see
pour
your role
jouer
as,
dans votre
your
poste,
actual
quel style
role,
de jeu
and
vous aimez jouer?
what freedom do you need to be able to play your type of play in your position on the team?
I don't know. I think I kind of like to be the playmaker, but I think we have a lot of players that can also do that. But yeah, I kind of want to help create stuff in the final third and be the player that can kind of get out of tight spaces and find the weak side. And I think I feel like I have freedom to do that. I feel like we all have kind of freedom to play our own way, and I feel like I've been grateful because I've been able to do that this tournament, and I have a lot of good players to play off of.
We have another question here in the front.
In English, Steve Goff, The Washington Post. Rose, Jill got to talk about you, so now you get to talk about Jill. What have you, since you're a relative newcomer to the national team, what have you learned from her over the last couple of years?
I have learned so much.
We love that.
Yeah, I always say I'm so grateful to the coaching staff because I feel like during my injury, when I was coming back with that, they were really patient and they always had this belief in me that I was going to come back and be the same player I was before I got hurt. And I feel like knowing that I had their confidence helped me get back to that point. And on the field, I feel like I'm just like learning something every day, which I love. I love to be able to go into an environment and just feel like I'm constantly learning and constantly getting better. And I feel like every time I come into camp, I feel like I'm getting better and improving my game. She hasn't showed me. I'll have to see that today.
Another question here in the second row.
Lucía Santiago de la agencia EF.
Lucía Santiago, agencia EF. I'm going to ask my question in Spanish.
Hablabas de
It's
que
for you,
Estados Unidos y
Jill.
España
You spoke
están en
about
diferentes momentos de su
the fact
historia.
that US and
Bajo
Spain
tu
are at
punto de
different
vista,
points
¿cómo
in their own
crees que
football
va a
and history?
continuar la historia
From your
del fútbol
point of view,
español?
how do you think this Spanish story is going to continue? What do you think the next stage in their football history will be for the Spanish national team?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, I think you can see the growth through the youth teams. And I think that's, I've met Jorge. I think he's a coach that wants to grow the game and grow the players. And you can see there's an influx of younger players, in the roster and even in the lineup. So, I think it's a program, as someone mentioned earlier, that's definitely on the rise. I think the domestic leagues and the talent and the fact now that some players, they're playing in Champions League finals and all that experience, I think it just speaks about the trajectory of the program in terms of, where they're headed.
Question here, second row.
Question in English for Rose. Helene Elliott from the LA Times. Just curious, Rose, how is the magnitude of this compared to what you thought it would be like?
I don't really know what I was expecting it to be like. I was kind of more focused on just like being present and doing what I could do that day that was going to help me for this tournament. So I feel like I've gotten asked that question and I have been stumped because I really have no clue what I was expecting. But it's been fun so far. Hopefully it stays that way.
Let's have two more questions here in third row.
Question in English for both of you. Ali Krieger said yesterday that this is the best US WNT ever. First, do you agree? And then, don't you fear it could make you look arrogant to the other teams?
Well, I didn't know Ali Krieger said that, but I think she's somebody that's been in this program for a long time. So if there's someone to speak about, where she feels this team is, I think she has the right to do this. I don't think that's in any way a reflection outwardly. I think that's an internal feeling. So I don't think it's a message to anybody else other than, the players feel good about this team and about each other. And I think where we are in terms of tactically, where our evolution is, where our level of play is. I think, I will say this, there's confidence, but I think this team knows that everything is earned, right? Nothing is given. So I don't think, I like that comment because it speaks about the confidence a player has in the players around them and about the team. I don't think it's a comment other than speaking about ourselves, and I think it's great.
Let's have the final question here in the front.
Kelly Whiteside, New York Times. Rose, you just mentioned that it's been fun so far. Besides winning, what's been fun? Dogs, food, what else?
Oh, there are so many dogs walking around this place. I love it. Honestly, everything. I mean, these are some of my best friends that I'm hanging with. And I feel like being able to have this experience with them, like getting to do what I love with the people I love, for the country I love, it's like an experience that I feel like you can't really put into words. So honestly, everything's been fun, like on and off the field.
All right, everyone, thank you so much for your presence. We now conclude the press conference.
This was not fun.